There's a conversation happening in America right now, a conversation about race, justice, creativity, and the future. But if you listen closely, you'll notice that some of the most powerful voices in that conversation aren't the ones you see on the news or trending on social media. They're not always the celebrities, the politicians, or the household names. Instead, they're the thinkers, artists, activists, and everyday leaders who are shaping culture, challenging systems, and inspiring change from the ground up. These are the Black voices you're not listening to yet. And once you do, you'll never see the world the same way again. The truth is, the mainstream has always been slow to recognize Black brilliance. For every name that makes it into the headlines, there are hundreds more working in the shadows, building movements, writing books, creating art, and changing lives. Their stories are often overlooked, their ideas dismissed, or their impact minimized. But history shows us that real change rarely starts at the top. It starts with the people who refuse to be silent, who speak truth to power, and who keep pushing even when no one is watching. Take, for example, the world of activism. While national figures like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X are rightly celebrated, there are countless local organizers whose work is just as vital. People like Tamika Mallory, who helped lead the Women's March and is a fierce advocate for criminal justice reform. Or Tarana Burke, the founder of the #MeToo movement, whose work on sexual violence and healing has changed the global conversation. These leaders may not always be in the spotlight, but their influence is undeniable. In the arts, the same pattern holds. While some Black artists achieve fame, many more are creating groundbreaking work outside the mainstream. Writers like Kiesi Lehman, whose memoirs and essays challenge readers to confront uncomfortable truths about America. Visual artists like Bisa Butler, who turns fabric and thread into vibrant portraits that celebrate Black life. Musicians like Moses Sumney, whose genre-defying sound pushes the boundaries of what Black music can be. These creators are redefining what it means to be an artist, and their work deserves to be heard, seen, and celebrated. Education is another arena where powerful Black voices are making a difference. Teachers, principals, and education advocates are fighting for equity in schools, developing culturally relevant curricula, and mentoring the next generation of leaders. People like Dr. Bettina Love, whose work on abolitionist teaching is transforming classrooms across the country. Or Chris Emden, who brings hip-hop and science together to engage students who have been left behind by traditional education. These educators are changing lives every day, even if their names aren't trending. In business and technology, Black innovators are building companies, developing apps, and creating opportunities in industries that have long excluded them. Entrepreneurs like Arlen Hamilton, who founded Backstage Capital to invest in underrepresented founders. Or Kimberly Bryant, the founder of Black Girls Code, who is opening doors for young women of color in tech. These leaders are not just breaking barriers, they're building new systems that work for everyone. But the most powerful Black voices aren't always the ones with the biggest platforms. Sometimes they're the people who show up for their communities day after day, who organize food drives, who mentor kids, who fight for safer streets and better schools. They're the parents, the pastors, the coaches, and the neighbors who make a difference in ways that don't always get noticed. Their power comes from their commitment, their resilience, and their refusal to give up. So why aren't we listening? Part of the answer is that the mainstream media still struggles to tell the full story of Black life in America. Too often coverage is focused on tragedy or conflict, rather than creativity, leadership, and hope. Algorithms and gatekeepers decide whose voices get amplified and whose get ignored. And sometimes we're just not looking in the right places. We follow the same accounts, read the same publications, and miss out on the richness and diversity of Black thought and experience. But it doesn't have to be this way. The internet has made it easier than ever to find new voices, to seek out different perspectives, and to broaden our understanding of the world. Podcasts, independent media, social platforms, and community events are all places where powerful Black voices are sharing their stories and ideas. All it takes is a willingness to listen, to learn, and to be changed. If you want to understand the future, you have to start listening to the voices that are shaping it. The most powerful Black voices you're not listening to yet are not waiting for permission to lead. They're already doing it. They're building movements, launching businesses, writing books, and creating art that challenges the status quo. They're not just talking about change, they're making it happen, often with limited resources and against long odds. And the more you listen, the more you realize how much you've been missing. Let's look at the world of activism again, but this time focus on the local heroes. In cities across America, there are organizers like Ashley Woodard Henderson in Tennessee, who co-directs the Highlander Research and Education Center, a hub for grassroots organizing in the South. Or Kat Brooks in Oakland, who co-founded the Anti-Police Terror Project and has been a relentless advocate for police accountability and community safety. These leaders are not just responding to crises. They're building long-term strategies for justice, rooted in the needs and dreams of their communities. In the world of media, Black journalists and storytellers are creating platforms that tell the stories mainstream outlets miss. People like Wesley Lowery, whose reporting on race and justice has won national awards, or Brittany Packnett Cunningham, whose podcast Undistracted brings together voices from across the movement for social change. There's also the rise of independent Black media collectives like The Root, Blavity, and Pushblack, which reach millions with news, history, and culture that centers Black experiences. The power of these voices lies in their authenticity. They're not trying to fit into someone else's mold or water down their message for mass appeal. They speak from lived experience, from a place of deep knowledge and commitment. They're willing to challenge not just the obvious injustices, but also the subtle ones, the microaggressions, the coded language, the systems that claim to be colorblind but still produce unequal outcomes. Their honesty can be uncomfortable, but it's also necessary. It forces us to confront the gap between our ideals and our reality. In the arts, the most powerful Black voices are often the ones who refuse to be boxed in. They blend genres, break rules, and create new forms. Think of playwrights like Jeremy O. Harris, whose play Slave Play forced audiences to grapple with the legacy of slavery and the complexities of desire and power. Or visual artists like Chabalabala Self, whose bold, colorful portraits challenge stereotypes about Black bodies and beauty. Or filmmakers like Rada Blank, whose film The 40-Year-Old Version is a hilarious, raw, and deeply personal look at creativity, aging, and authenticity. In the world of business, Black entrepreneurs are building companies that reflect their values and serve their communities. They're not just chasing profit, they're creating jobs, mentoring young people, and investing in neighborhoods that have been overlooked for too long. Leaders like Tristan Walker, who founded Bevel to create grooming products for Black men, or Jessica Matthews, whose company Uncharted Power turns movement into electricity, are redefining what it means to be a business leader. They're proving that innovation and social impact can go hand in hand. Education is another area where powerful Black voices are making a difference. Teachers like Sharif El-Mekki, who founded the Center for Black Educator Development, are working to recruit and support more Black teachers, knowing that representation matters for students of color. Advocates like Zaretta Hammond, whose work on culturally responsive teaching is changing classrooms across the country, are helping educators understand how to reach every student. These leaders are not just teaching content, they're teaching confidence, pride, and the skills to navigate a complex world. But perhaps the most important voices are the ones you hear in everyday life. The parent who organizes a tutoring group so kids in the neighborhood don't fall behind. The pastor who opens the church basement for community meetings. The young person who starts a podcast to talk about mental health. Or the artist who paints a mural to honor local heroes. These are the voices that keep communities strong, that pass down wisdom, and that remind us that leadership isn't always about titles or fame. Listening to these voices requires humility. It means admitting that you don't know everything, that your perspective is limited, and that there's always more to learn. It means seeking out new sources, following new people, and being open to being challenged. It means supporting Black creators, entrepreneurs, and leaders, not just with words, but with your attention, your dollars, and your votes.
The most powerful Black voices you're not listening to yet are not waiting for an invitation. They're already building the future. And the sooner you start listening, the sooner you can be part of it. Their stories are not just about struggle. They're about vision, creativity, and the power to transform the world. If you want to be on the right side of history, start by listening to the voices that are making it.
The beauty of discovering powerful Black voices you haven't heard yet is that it opens up a world of possibility. These voices are not just speaking to Black audiences, they're speaking to everyone, offering new ways to think about justice, creativity, leadership, and community. When you start to listen, you realize how much richer, more complex, and more hopeful the world can be. You also realize how much you've been missing by sticking to the same old sources, the same old stories. One of the most exciting places to find these voices is in the world of podcasting. Black podcasters are creating shows that cover everything from politics to pop culture, from mental health to entrepreneurship. Take The Nod, which explores the many dimensions of Black life and culture with humor and insight. Or Therapy for Black Girls, which breaks down the stigma around mental health and offers practical advice for healing and growth. Or Code Switch, where journalists of color tackle the complexities of race and identity in America. These podcasts are not just informative, they're transformative, offering listeners a chance to see the world through new eyes. Social media is another space where powerful Black voices are thriving. On Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, creators are building communities, sharing knowledge, and sparking conversations that go far beyond the mainstream. Influencers like Tabitha Brown, whose warmth and wisdom have made her a beloved figure, or Kev on Stage, who uses comedy to talk about faith, family, and culture, are reaching millions. Activists like Brittany Packnett Cunningham and DeRay McKesson use their platforms to organize, educate, and inspire action. These creators are not just chasing clout, they're building movements, one post at a time. In the world of literature, Black authors are telling stories that challenge, comfort, and provoke. Writers like Britt Bennett, whose novel The Vanishing Half explores identity and family across generations, or Ta-Nehisi Coates, whose essays and novels have reshaped the national conversation about race, are must-reads. There's also a new generation of poets like Dane Smith and Morgan Parker, whose work is raw, honest, and deeply moving. These writers are not just chronicling the Black experience, they're expanding it, showing that there is no single story, no single way to be Black in America. Visual art is another arena where powerful Black voices are making their mark. Artists like Kerry James Marshall, whose paintings celebrate Black life in all its complexity, or Lorna Simpson, whose photography and collage work challenge viewers to see beyond stereotypes, are redefining what art can do. Street artists are turning city walls into canvases for protest, celebration, and remembrance. Their work is a reminder that art is not just decoration, it's a form of resistance, a way to claim space and tell the truth. The world of business is also being transformed by Black voices you may not have heard yet. Entrepreneurs are launching companies that solve real problems, create jobs, and build wealth in their communities. They're starting everything from tech startups to coffee shops, from fashion brands to financial services. Many are using their businesses as platforms for social change, hiring locally, supporting other Black-owned businesses, and giving back to their neighborhoods. Their success is a testament to the power of vision, hard work, and community support. Education is another field where Black voices are leading the way. Teachers, principals, and education advocates are developing new models for learning, mentoring students, and fighting for equity in schools. They're creating after-school programs, scholarship funds, and mentorship networks that open doors for the next generation. Their work is often underfunded and underappreciated, but it's changing lives every day. Faith and spirituality remain central for many powerful Black voices. Pastors, imams, and spiritual leaders are not just preaching, they're organizing, counseling, and building community. They're addressing issues like mental health, economic justice, and family support, often filling gaps left by other institutions. Their leadership is rooted in tradition, but also open to new ideas and new ways of serving their communities. Perhaps the most important thing about these voices is that they are not waiting for validation from the mainstream. They're building their own platforms, telling their own stories, and setting their own agendas. They are not asking for permission to lead.
they are leading and inviting others to join them. The result is a cultural shift that is changing not just Black communities, but the entire country. If you want to be part of this shift, start by seeking out these voices. Follow new people on social media, read books by Black authors, listen to podcasts and watch videos that challenge your assumptions. Support Black-owned businesses and organizations. Most of all, be willing to listen, not just to the words, but to the experiences, the dreams, and the wisdom behind them. The most powerful Black voices you're not listening to yet are not just talking, they are building, creating, and transforming the world. The sooner you start listening, the sooner you'll realize that the future is already here, and it's more exciting, more just, and more beautiful than you ever imagined.
When you start to truly listen to the most powerful Black voices you're not listening to yet, you begin to notice a pattern. These voices are not just about critique, they're about vision. They don't just point out what's wrong with the world, they show us what's possible. They offer blueprints for change, models for leadership, and examples of resilience that can inspire anyone, regardless of background. They remind us that progress is not just about tearing down old systems, but about building something new in their place. Consider the world of community organizing. Black leaders are at the forefront of movements for affordable housing, environmental justice, and public safety. People like Colette Pichon Battle, who has led efforts to rebuild communities in Louisiana after hurricanes and to fight for climate justice, are showing what it means to care for both people and the planet. Or look at the work of Black farmers and food justice advocates who are reclaiming land, teaching sustainable agriculture, and ensuring that their communities have access to healthy food. These are not just local issues. They're national models for how to build stronger, more resilient communities. In the tech world, Black innovators are creating platforms that center Black experiences and solve problems that mainstream companies overlook. From apps that help people find Black-owned businesses to platforms that connect mentors and mentees, these entrepreneurs are using technology to build networks of support and opportunity. They're also pushing for greater diversity in Silicon Valley, challenging companies to hire, promote, and invest in Black talent at every level. The world of health and wellness is also being transformed by Black voices. Doctors, therapists, and wellness coaches are addressing the unique challenges faced by Black communities, from higher rates of chronic illness to the mental health impacts of racism. They're creating culturally competent care, launching mental health campaigns, and breaking down the stigma around seeking help. Their work is saving lives and changing the conversation about what it means to be healthy and whole. Black voices are also leading the way in reimagining justice. Activists and legal scholars are developing new models for public safety that don't rely on policing and incarceration. They're advocating for restorative justice, community mediation, and investment in social services. Their work is grounded in the belief that true safety comes from strong communities, not just from punishment. These ideas are gaining traction across the country, influencing policy and inspiring new approaches to justice. In the world of sports, Black athletes are using their platforms to speak out on issues that matter. They're not just playing the game, they're changing it. From Colin Kaepernick's protest against police violence to Naomi Osaka's advocacy for mental health, these athletes are showing that leadership is about more than winning medals or breaking records. It's about using your influence to make a difference, to stand up for what's right, and to inspire others to do the same. The most powerful Black voices you're not listening to yet are also redefining what it means to be a leader. They're collaborative, not just charismatic. They build teams, share credit, and lift others as they climb. They understand that real power comes from empowering others, from building movements that last beyond any one person. They're not interested in being the only one at the top. They want to bring as many people with them as possible. These voices are also deeply rooted in history. They honor the struggles and achievements of those who came before, drawing strength from ancestors and elders. But they're not bound by the past. They're always looking forward, imagining new futures and new possibilities. They understand that the fight for justice is a relay race, not a sprint, and they're committed to passing the baton to the next generation. Listening to these voices is not just an act of solidarity.
It's an investment in the future. The ideas, innovations, and leadership coming from Black communities are shaping the world we all live in. They're making our schools better, our neighborhoods safer, our businesses more inclusive, and our culture more vibrant. They're showing us what's possible when everyone has a seat at the table and a voice in the conversation. If you want to be part of this future, start by listening. Seek out the voices you haven't heard yet. Read their books, watch their films, attend their events, and support their work. Share their stories with your friends and family. Challenge yourself to learn, to grow, and to see the world through new eyes. The most powerful Black voices you're not listening to yet are not waiting for permission to lead. They're already leading, already building, already changing the world. The question is, are you ready to listen?